Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power of Man podcast. My name is Rory Paquette. I know you know that. I just like to remind myself how grateful I am to be sitting in this chair. Folks, when we went to 5 days a week, you showed up like crazy. When I made the what I thought was an insane decision to go to 7 days a week, you folks just turned out like there was no tomorrow. I really appreciate everything you've done for us here at the podcast. It's been really amazing. And after all these years and thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads, the only reason we have any of this is because of you. So thank you so much for doing what you do the way you do it. If you don't do what you're doing out there, I can't do what I'm doing over here. If you're a friend of the program, and I know you are, you know what's coming next. That's right. We've got to pay a couple bills. So let me get a sip of my preferred beverage. Ooh, man, that is fantastic stuff. Oh, you guys all know what we're drinking. That's right. It's Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Look them up, check them out. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful, just like my wife. They brew a mean cup of Joe. It's a fantastic cup of coffee, guys. And, they do a lot of the right things for a lot of the right reasons, and they support veterans, which is one of the reasons why we support them the way that we do. I want to give a shout out to all the veterans out there and say thank you to you and your families, including the gentleman we have on with us today. Folks, we love you and we're glad you found a home here with the Power Man podcast. We have a huge, huge group of veterans that listen to this regularly. I love you guys and I'm glad you're here. Folks, go check them out. Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram and tell them Power of Man sent you. All right, let me get one more sip of this so I can keep up with this young buck across the table from me. All right, here we go. Please welcome to the show. He's a Marine and he is a husband and father of four kids, four and under. So, give him a little bit of grace. All right. If the guy needs a break, if he has to take a breath, give him a second because, oh my goodness, four kids, boom, 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 just like that. Got to respect that. Folks, please welcome to the show, Francisco Garza. Francisco, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, better than I deserve, man. Thank you for asking. Appreciate that. Love having you on the show today. And again, thank you for your service, sir. Appreciate it very much. And I'll tell you what, let's just cut right to it. Who is Francisco Garza? What's your story? And, what has brought you to where you are today, brother?
All right. I'm a first generation American. My dad is from Mexico. My mom is from a country called Hungary. And, well, she escaped communism when she was a kid. She got smuggled out of Hungary in the trunk of a car, was able to make it to Austria, came over to the US, and then, her family was able to start her life here. My dad came for different reasons. He came for the economics of it. He said that at the time, they settled in Houston, Texas, which I was born, where I was born. At the time he came to Houston, he just said like there was something different, like the economy was popping off. So this is where he stayed. And like with any boom town, they met, they fell in love, they stayed here. They had 8 kids. Um, our running joke with them is every kid says that they should have stopped with me, except to include the last one, who they listened to. So, but with that, growing up as a first generation American, we really didn't have deep cultural ties to like the American process, if you will. So when it came time for university, I was on the fence as to whether or not I would go. My brother had went to Texas A&M before me. My dad really loved the culture, and when I told my dad, I was like, "Hey, I think I'm just going to enlist. I don't know if university is right for me." And to his credit, he didn't say no, but he was like, "Hey, like let's go to A&M. They have a corps of cadets there that is a pipeline into the military. At least you'll be an officer. Let's just go check it out." So we went, and during the trip, he told me, "You will apply here." So I did. Made it into A&M by the skin of my teeth. Went through my university experience there. Made some great friends. Ended up as a Marine officer with my roommate. My roommate, phenomenal friend, phenomenal Marine, dragged me along with him into the Marine Corps. So ended up in the infantry. I did 2 deployments with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines out of Hawaii, both to the Far East. So saw a lot of the Far East out there. I figured my time wasn't done, so I talked to the leadership of the battalion, and they were like, "Hey, if you want another deployment, you should probably go Marine Reconnaissance." So there was a screener, a test, a school, a fairly high attrition rate. before there was Marine Special Operations, the Marine Corps answer to SOCOM was Marine Recon. I understand that's a little bit of an interesting question nowadays with both Recon and MARSOC. So I've never been Special Operations. I've only been at Marine Recon and Infantry. So went to the screener, passed, went to airborne school, dive school, got into another deployment with the Navy. There, I went to the Middle East, but ended up in Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, and Djibouti. Never stepped foot in Iraq or Afghanistan. Just didn't happen. Didn't happen for me. After that deployment, I'd been go go go. I'd just been like pushing myself physically, mentally, like to the point of exhaustion, trying to get that combat deployment, trying to get to the next best thing, the next school, the next cert. And as I tell the story, I woke up on my buddy's couch after that third deployment. I was 30 years old. I had 2 surfboards and a frying pan to my name. And I just kind of put my hand, put my hand to my head and was like, there's got to be something more to my life than just, like going that 110% all the time. And so I decided to get out. But I had never been a company commander. And that was the one thing that I wanted to do that I hadn't done yet. And I knew that I could do that in the reserves. So I direct affiliated into the reserve program from active duty. I went to the University of Houston to get an MBA. And it's about at this time period that I started to realize the near insane drive to just do the next thing, to do the harder thing, to do the next best thing, to the drive that got me to that point of success within the military and to get into an MBA program, and all these great things. They weren't necessarily translating into success once you were there. So in the MBA program, who were the most successful people there? Were they the ones that were just absolute go-getter alpha personality types, or were they the ones who could understand systems, take a step back, and then work these long-term relationships through this very, very intricate network of people that they knew? So in the Marine Corps, we have a saying, and I'm sure it's fairly similar across all services. It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So again, leaning on my military experience, I started noticing that some of the best people, or rather some of the most successful people at getting the jobs they wanted, getting the salary, the best negotiators, weren't necessarily the people that were the best at doing the thing. They were the best at taking a totalitarian or a total view of the situation and being able to identify who the key players were and build relationships, which is something that I'd never had to practice in the Marine Corps, because you were told who your friends were going to be, and then you just did the thing. This was further complicated by the fact that I married my wife while I was at grad school. COVID-19 was happening. So all of these really transformative events were happening, not only just for me personally, but for my family as a whole, getting married, and then COVID, and my job prospects on the outside. So one of the driving reasons why I was how are you successful and I'm not, when I had the drive to get here just as you, but something is not copacetic in what I feel I should be able to do and you're able to do and I'm not. So as this was happening, COVID happens. I graduate the program. I did not land a job out of grad school. So I went back on active duty for a year during the pandemic. Wow. I had my son. And as I'm transitioning out of that 1 year of active duty, I get 2 consecutive phone calls. So the first one is from my reserve unit. And they're like, hey, would you like to be a company commander? And I said, absolutely. This is why I stayed in the military. I want this. Let's do it. And the second phone call was from a buddy of mine from the MBA program at University of Houston. The reason why him and I were such close friends is because we're both Marines. He had served a decade before I had, but we were both Marines. We're both in the cohort. And he gives me a phone call and he's like, hey, I'm working for this consulting firm. They're hiring. It's a great company, and I think you'd be a great fit. So it's fantastic. So yes to both. So transition for a second time off active duty. come back to Houston, settling in. I have a son, my wife, house, new job, command. All of this is happening, and it goes back to that question that I had during the MBA program. Why are some people so successful at this stage, and other people who are just as qualified and on paper just as good struggle once they get here? So now, like, abbreviating the near past, right? Like, I've ended up having a daughter and then two, a set of twins. Pretty quick succession. So like now I have 4 kids. I was a company commander for 2 years, and like I've only taken on more responsibilities across the board of the reserves and the corporate life. Not to mention the 4 kids. So I started back when I had my first kid and I first took command. It really dawned on me that like I had never taken the time to actually write down what it is I believed. And why this was important to me is that I've had very outcomes dependent or situationally dependent reviews and feedback. What I mean by that is you could like roll out of bed, hungover, run a first class PFT, and then like get congratulated for it, even though your preparation for that had been horrible, right? So like, but hey, you did the thing. You got the thing done that we wanted you to do. You are first class PFT. I'm not going to ask you how you got here. You just did a great job, and you're rewarding a very bad process. Now, if you take that on the flip side for a commander, if you're only mad at people, or if you only praise people and you only punish people based off of strictly the outcome, what you're going to end up producing is a culture within that command that is completely dependent not on what is right or what is correct, but rather what the outcome was. So like you could have the worst training, the worst prep, the worst documentation, and if it just happens to work out well, you're rewarding a really bad system. And you take that back to my family life, right? All of my kids are before the age of reason. Like not one is yet to the age of 7, which from last I Googled that's the officially recognized age of reason. So it's like, I can't, sit them down and give them heart to heart talks. I can't scold them. Like, like some certain types of punishment may not be effective for all kids. And you have to be worried about the second and third order effects of like whatever it is that you choose, because they can't reason with what you're doing. They can only like process it. And a lot of times it just comes out like very emotionally for them, being so young. So when it comes to my family, it's like, all right, I need to be consistent. Like, because if they do something great and I'm way over the top excited, like, okay, like, do I have, for the kids, that consistency is important, because now they're going to expect something if they do something well, or if they do something bad and I lose my cool, are they going to be bad? Are they going to fear doing the wrong thing because it's the wrong thing, or are they going to fear my reaction? So then like, does that give them kids a perverse incentive structure where they do the bad thing when I'm not looking, because they're not scared of the bad thing, they're scared of me? And then just taking it out to like the absolute meta view of culture, right? Like writing down my philosophy and actually like trying to figure out like at the core of what is the core of what I believe. What I noticed is that you can have a lot of experts in the room, and I'm not saying any of this facetiously. Like you can have a lot of experts in the room, you can have a lot of smart people, and they could be quoting facts, they could be pointing to studies, they could be in absolute disagreement with each other, and they're all quoting facts. And let's just assume, for the sake of this argument, all of those facts are true. So like what I've kind of discovered after I wrote my own philosophy down is these people they're not arguing with each other. They've already determined that they're right. They have facts that back up their position. And instead of trying to engage with somebody else with like, what is it that, like, what is the outcome? What is the process? And like, what is the foundational truths that we're working toward or working from? They're not doing that. And then conflict resolution becomes impossible if you can't agree on like foundationally what it is you're arguing about, what agreed set of facts you have, and then what is the desired end state of either party. So like, from the societal view to the Marine Corps to business down to the individual level, like writing down my philosophy has helped me really articulate what I believe is the defining feature of being successful when you achieve what you want versus how to get there.
Okay. Well, you can't leave me hanging. What is the defining principle then?
It's as I was. So my defiance, like I'll talk about my principles, right? And there's more than one, but I think that for the general audience, right, like write it down. Like whatever it is that you believe, write it down because once you write it down, right, it doesn't exist in your head. You write it down. You can stress test it because once it's in black and white, right? And maybe it's just I'm a very tactile person. Like I like to hold things. I like to work things through failure. Like if I fail at something, I learn more after that failure. So I wrote it down in black and white, and then all of a sudden, like I couldn't just explain away in my head, like, well, I'm sure my like way that I'm thinking is correct. So therefore, like I'm sure that I don't have the thought power or the brain space. I have, I have kids, I have this job, I have the reserves. I have too much to think about. I'm sure that I'm right. I just don't have time to think about it. Writing it down allowed me to stress test what it is that I believed. So like I started with two things. So one, stoicism. As a military man, like as a man in general, like I think stoicism really speaks volumes to people like me. The Stoics were not people who sat on the sidelines. They were not passive observers of their times. They were generals, commanders, leaders, politicians, orators. They were doers of things, which is something that like I'm inclined towards. And the second thing on the religion side is the Catholic Church. I am not endorsing a denomination. I enjoy how the Catholic Church articulates some of their deeper thought processes on how to approach problems, specifically societal ones and to an extent business. So I take these two things and it's like, okay, like I like how this is articulated here and I like how this practically applies to me in the day to day. And I took some quotes, took some teachings, put it together on a piece of paper and said, like, this is the core. Like, I know that I'm inclined towards this and this feels right. Now I can stress test it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The okay, so writing down what you believe in, this all came about basically just from self-reflection. It sounds like it doesn't sound like there was some big, causal event, or happening that changed things for you. You just sort of woke up one day and said, "Hey, this is where I am in my life. What do I really believe?" And started questioning yourself.
It was my wife.
Ah, okay. There's always a cause. All right.
Yeah, I would love to take credit and say that I had a eureka moment. But it was my wife. So my wife is so she's a very devout Catholic. She's very, very read into like modern parenting techniques, traditional parenting techniques, classical education. She's a very articulate person. And talking with her, like if it's good for the kids, it has to be good for me too. So then like I brought in a bunch of baggage to my marriage, as we all do, right? No one's immune to it. But like
Sure.
coming out of the Marine Corps, it's very like I would say like toxic stoicism almost, where it's rewarded to show zero emotion and it's rewarded just to not speak your mind and just do the thing. And there's always exceptions to the rule, and that's fantastic. I love those guys out there that keep trudging on like that. But with my wife, she was very specific. Like, no, like you said you wanted X. Like she stress tested a lot of these ideas off the bat, especially when it came to parenting. And so, like by working through that with my wife, because my son was born during COVID, so he was I think 6 months old by the time I got those two successive phone calls. So like my wife had been stress testing my thoughts about how I was going to be a parent for 6 months, and then corporate and military both popped off at the same time. So that stress test environment that I was in was like, wait a minute, like I thought I was going to be a great dad. Like no work required. Let me just execute. My dad did a good job. I'll just do what he did, and you know what? It'll be fine. Like that. I found out very quickly that mentality didn't work. And then like I was scared going into company command and corporate leadership. It's like, all right, I have all these preconceived notions just about parenting one child. And it's like, what are my preconceived notions about command? Because like I've had bad commanders. I've had great commanders too, don't get me wrong, but like I've had bad commanders. And then going into the corporate world, I remember one of our case studies. I won't say the name of the company, but like one of our case studies was like a major tech company based in San Francisco. The entire course was just a list of their top 40 worst business scandals. And, it's like they thought that they were like, this is business. Like, we just got to get it done. And it's like, then we only studied the top 40. So I'm assuming that there's more. But like, they were making horrible choices. So like, how do I become a ethically guided, principled corporate leader? How do I take what I'm learning as a father and like from marriage, which in and of itself, marriage is probably the greatest single like endeavor because like from I believe that's for life. Like I don't believe in divorce. So my wife and I we're in it for the long haul. So like how do I take the learning experiences here and apply it? It's like I need to write it down. Like I can't because I'm not gonna have somebody like you may not have somebody like for me it's my wife. For somebody else it could be, a friend, colleague, whatever. I'm not going to have somebody who can stress test me in the same rigorous way that she did. So like I have to write it down and I have to have this hit reality. And like if it's not there or if I'm being inconsistent, I need to know because kids love consistency, Marines love consistency, and like even in the corporate world, like buyers love consistency. If you could promise the world, especially now in the AI age, right? Like you can promise an infinite number of widgets to a customer, and then how AI is going to increase speed, increase efficiency, name your the perfect solution and how you can AI enable it. And there's actually a radically high, like above 75% of all AI projects fail to go to production.
Hmm.
And that goes back like, did you actually write down like what it is that you believe? Did you go and did you have an honest conversation with that buyer? And did your capabilities and did the foundation of truth that y'all agreed upon meet the end state that y'all were going for? Or is it like, hey, we have this tool and this capability, it could work and it could work? Because then like you can have like 3 or 4 use cases where it's fantastic and you can advertise these 3 or 4 use cases where it's like we increased efficiency by 70%. But unless you agree upon foundations and process, like that outcome is not guaranteed.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Um, wow. Okay. So, I mean, this leads into where you are in your business as well, in terms of what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing for a living right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Um, got it. The Clearly you learned a lot of this from the military in terms of, being disciplined and how to like sort of organize and formulate the thoughts and, keep things in an order and that type of thing. So it sounds like, as I'm listening to all this, that it was the component of faith coming in that opened things up for you and got you to kind of take the rigid discipline that you'd been in and say, okay, now I need to open this up and think about more possibilities. Am I reading that right?
Exactly.
Nice. Okay. Had you always been, I mean, had you had any exposure to faith prior to your wife? Was your wife your first kind of, go around with it?
Okay. No was the short answer. So
No.
I was raised Catholic, but I met a lot of really bad Christians in my day.
Okay.
And at about somewhere in college, it was just the amount of it was anecdotal, right? And if I didn't have a philosophy, I wasn't thinking strategically, I didn't have, I wasn't really responsible for anybody but myself, right? So like at that juncture, when you don't have responsibility, when you don't have like real responsibility weighted on you, it's very easy just to throw things aside. So
Hmm.
like I just met like a successive hit of just like some really terrible Christians, and it's just like if these are the people who are like the most vocal and the most out there, and this wasn't TV, this was like in real life,
Sure.
and it's like if this is the manifestation of what this religion does, then I want no part of it. So I just walked away. It wasn't dramatic or anything. It was like a slow, slow whimper. Then it just died out. Is never appealed to me until, like I said, 30 years old, sitting on a couch, two frying pans and a two surfboards and a frying pan, and it's just like, why am I here? Then into my life walks my wife, right, and she's like, she's I think she's amazing, and she, I was like already accepted to the University of Houston. I was gonna go like do my MBA, be a reservist. Like I had it set. Like I was still in that old mindset of just like execute, execute, execute. Do the next big thing. Do the next hard thing. And my wife, like I thought she was amazing, so I was like, hey, like it's like I did the Marine thing. I offered like, hey, we could just get married. And she was like, absolutely not. Uh, like here are the prerequisites. All right, like and she was a better business negotiator at that time than I ever was. So she was like, look, if we're gonna do this, like I need guarantees. Like we're gonna be a Catholic family. You are going to take us to church every Sunday, and it's like she was so amazing, and like she was unlike any other woman I'd ever met before. So like I was like, you were just like, that's it? Like you just want me to go back to church? Like easy. And then lo and behold, you know, who you hang out with, like those people impact you. And
Mhm.
I'm hanging out with her family, people at church, members of the clergy, and I'm being introduced to the catechism, which I had known about this stuff, right? But like again, like at that time period of my life, I didn't care. And then you read some of these like really old school thinkers like St. Augustine or Aquinas, like they were thinking about big issues and like really wrestling with these really complex problems. And it's like, hey, like I'm not saying that I'm at that level, right? Like I'm not dealing with the same scope of problems that they're dealing with. But why do I have to reinvent the wheel? There are already these like amazing philosophers and thinkers and writers that have already just really articulated these problems. I just haven't read them. And like that's how I got back into it, was like I want to read the source docs. So like going back and reading that stuff just really inspired and facilitated me to actually write my own down.
Nice. Okay. I mean, you clearly have a penchant for philosophy and for philosophical thought, and the like. So, I'm curious. Maybe you can answer this. Maybe you can't. I don't know. But do you think that it was your the attraction you had towards philosophy that made you become more interested in the Catholic faith, or was it the other way around, where the Catholic faith like opened you up, and then you started saying, "Hey, philosophically, this is kind of cool."
I would say it's the second one, and that's a great question because when I first got married, like I said, we all bring baggage into a marriage, right? So my wife would like talk to me about the Catholic Church, and I'd be like, I'd argue with her. I'd be like, that's ridiculous, or like that's silly. Like, how could you believe this? I mean, like, I would push back, and and again, like societal level, right? Like we weren't arguing the same points because we never agreed upon like the foundation.
Right.
So like when you get down, like when you get out of the moment of that argument, you're like, all right, you believe X. Why do you believe X? And you have to go another level down. It's like, all right, it's these are the source documents, right? Like Bible, Saint Jerome, like name your early Christian philosopher, like, and these are the writings that like facilitate this. And then once you really understand where the argument's coming from, like what the foundational truths are, it actually changed my arguments because the way that I was arguing was just like very spur of the moment, like manifestation. Like I have a strong emotional reaction to this statement, so I am going to say what I believe, even though it's not necessarily arguing the same facts that you're arguing from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It makes me also wonder, the as you've talked about, folks who have a difference of opinion. Um, there's the arguments, so to speak, but in order to um, get past that, in order to get past the conflict, you have to have that agreed upon basis platform, like you were just talking about. Now, you and your wife, it sounds like we're able to get to that sort of agreed upon platform to work from because your husband and wife, or you were trying to be at the time, right? So there's an affection, there's a love there that makes you both come together and find the common ground, so to speak. Um, what are your thoughts on, in terms of society? Because you mentioned this, a little bit out in society where nobody can find any common ground and they don't seem to have any motivation to want to find that common ground either. If you don't have that personal relationship to pull you together on the basic understanding, the basic agreements, what are your thoughts on how you achieve that?
It's really hard. Um, but
All right.
there's that I call it old people wisdom makes so much more sense to me now that I've been married for a couple years. So like walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Hmm.
Like I have a friend of mine and I'm very blessed, right? Like him and I went to college together. We know each other very, very well. We both served together in the Marines and we're on complete opposite ends of the political spectrum. And so like he will call me to argue with me because we actually do have an understanding that, hey, like we both love each other. Like this, like any he could literally say anything he wants, like in the heat of the moment, right? Like I'm not saying that it's like like a blank check, but like in the heat of the moment, he can say anything he thinks and he wants, and he knows that it's coming from. I know that he loves me, and he knows that I love him, right? Like we're just that good of friends, and like our lives just took us in opposite spectrums. So like walk a mile in that person's shoes, because like I'll ask him like, hey man, like it's in some instances it's like I just don't understand at all what you're trying to say. I don't listen to the same news. I don't read the same publications. I don't have the same friend group as him anymore. And with the information age, it's very easy to get siloed. You could exist in a digital bubble and not even be aware of struggles, issues, or even how like language can be interpreted in different circles. So it's like, hey man, send me something that you think explains this, because like I have no idea what you're talking about. And it goes both ways, right? Like it's not just him coming to me, I go to him too. And like it's having a relationship, having a human relationship. And this goes back like my relationship with him is kind of my model, my mental model for the business professionals I saw in graduate school that were so wildly successful. They had long-term relationships with potential buyers, years of slowly cultivating relationships with potential buyers, where it's like, oh, I went to school with this guy and we're both kind of moving up the corporate ladder together. They stay in contact. They go have lunch once a quarter. There's no prospect, right? There's no buy, but like that relationship when you need it is what really comes through in the end. And having a friend that has a very drastically different mindset than me, I feel has grounded both of us better in our work, like in today's world, than what if we were isolated. And it comes down like we call each other like once a quarter just to check in. We send each other pictures of our families, and it's just having that relationship. It's actually putting in the time to invest in a meaningful relationship, and that pays dividends across the board.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Now, is this something that you're trying to translate over into teaching in businesses?
So right now in the corporate world, if it's not AI, there's not a lot of people interested right now.
Right.
But at some point, I would love to kind of synthesize this into an approach and like incorporate it into some sort of like program leadership. But that's maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. Just because like there's a lot of actually, going back founding principles, right? Like it would be easy to go online, get a LinkedIn page, Instagram, Facebook, hire a company to start up an LLC for you. It's very easy to generate churn, but the what I see, because I remember someone saying once, very early on in my MBA experience, oh, I don't want my business to grow too fast. And I just remember being perplexed by this. I was just like, it's like you don't want it to grow too fast. Like don't be a wuss, right? Like, but I
Right.
but I get it now because like with like trying to conceptualize like a business proposition, right? Like if it's easy to generate noise, it's easy to generate churn, it's easy to get people interested, but you don't want to be a used car salesman because it goes back to like again like why were those people in my MBA cohort so successful? Like why am I like why do I cherish my friendship with my friend that I disagree with so much? Like you know, stress testing my philosophy with my wife made me a better person, and it's because it was a long term relationship that had a solid foundation. And so like by growing my business too fast or by growing a business too fast, like you could succumb to the temptation of just, hey, we need to generate revenue and profit. We like, what's our margin? Like the noise out drowns out the actual progress and you end up becoming a used car salesman where you're selling subpar products, people don't want to go to you, you're just the next and then they'll move on to the next guy. And you don't have those long-term clients that can generate wealth over a time horizon. So that's why like 3 to 5 years from now, I know I'm upgrading the time limit, right? But 3 to 5 years, I think it could be synthesized into a standalone business unit. But I mean, I really don't want to be a used car salesman. I want to have a quality product.
Nice. Nice. I mean, I love the ideas behind what it is you're talking about right now. And I mean, honestly, anytime you encourage folks to start, thinking more philosophically, a little deeper about certain topics, promoting faith, in some way, shape, or form. I mean, these are all positive things that you're putting out there into the world. So, I wish you all the best with all of them as you continue to move forward. I know, with our time we have left, I know that you did want to mention a particular foundation that is, important to you. And I want to make sure we get it out there. We got thousands of listeners. I want to make sure we put that in their hands, because this is important to you. The Marine Reconnaissance Foundation. You want to tell folks about that a little bit real quick and, what it does and why they should care.
Absolutely. The Marine Reconnaissance Foundation is a nonprofit designed to support the Marine reconnaissance community and the families of the Marine reconnaissance community. And I just want to plug their Gold Star Family Retreat. So for those of you who are unaware, if if a service member dies in the line of duty, I know that there's some technical definitions here, but for the colloquial aspect of it, it's if you die while in the line of duty, the surviving members of that family are Gold Star families. So for the Gold Star families, the Marine Reconnaissance Foundation hosts a Gold Star Family Retreat that brings those families together and allows them to be amongst people that served either with their lost family member or at least people who understand the service and the experiences of that lost service member. And it also allows them the opportunity to be with other families who have experienced similar grief. It's phenomenal work. It's a phenomenal foundation. If you're so inclined, please donate.
Nice. Nice. And we'll make sure there's a link for that in the show notes as well. I know that's an important thing for you. And I know that's something that you hold close to your heart personally. So we'll make sure we get that out. Um, the Marine Reconnaissance Foundation, obviously, it's for families. It's to help the families of the Gold Star families. I know we do a lot of we've talked about Gold Star families on here a lot. And so that's something that's really important to a lot of folks who listen to this program. I appreciate you bringing that up. Um, there doesn't seem to be nearly enough help for Gold Star families. Is that something that you've come across?
It unfortunately it is, and it's not from a lack of want. I feel like it's more those families want to feel. I need to be very careful.
Hmm.
I don't want to speak for the families themselves, but I feel like
Sure.
the most meaningful Gold Star family programs I have seen have been hyper localized. So like the unit, um, or the the community of professionals within like a service. So like the larger the Gold Star family organization, the less impactful I find it because people want to be with the peer group of their lost service member. They want to be with people that they can relate to or maybe have known. So
Hmm.
I feel like those hyper localized ones are more effective
Sure.
But again, like if any corporation or any larger entity is doing any work for Gold Star families, like I support it 100%. And God bless you.
Love it. All right. I'm glad we got that in there. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention too, for the show today. We have a lot of veterans who listen to this program. So some of them may not have heard of that before. I want to make sure they're aware of it. So again, thank you. Francisco, you've brought a lot to the show. It's a very unique way of just kind of thinking about, life and questioning things. And you brought up some very interesting points. I mean, most of us just go through our lives like handling the next thing, either putting out the next fire or striving for the next goal. Um, Doing the things that you've been talking about today, this seems to have brought you an incredible amount of peace.
Absolutely. Because if you know what you want and you know why you want it, it's very easy to say no. And I feel like saying no to opportunities is one of the hardest things. It was one of the hardest things for me as a young professional. Like, I want to say yes to the promotion. I want to say yes to the new job. I want to say yes to this or that or to the move. Like, all of this sounds great. But what's grounded me is like kind of writing down what I believe. And it's like, hey, this is cool and it's a great opportunity, but it's not in line with like my ultimate goal. It's not in line with my full, like doing this would actually be a detriment to my family or to the other commitments that I have. It makes it easy to say no. And saying no, to me, it's a superpower. And writing down my philosophy has really enabled me to do that more.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that. And I'm glad that it's resulted in that for you. I really, really am. Listen, as we kind of bring this to a close and wrap things up, I want to give you the floor for a minute, just in case there's anything that I didn't ask you. If there's anything that maybe we talked about, you want to double down on, or maybe a last parting message, for the folks that are listening today. Anything like that. The floor is yours for the next minute or two. Go for it.
All right. If it is outside of your control, it's outside of your control. You don't need to lose sleep over it. Write down your philosophy. And then once you write it down, don't worry about explaining it, embody it. You got to act it out. You got to let the rubber meet the road, and you got to walk the walk. And if those are the three things you took away from this conversation, I think I'll be happy.
Wonderful. All right. Short, sweet, to the point. Love the wrap up, man. That's great. But that's perfect. All right. Hey, father of uh, four and under kids, which still just sort of like trips me up right there. And of course, Marine, Francisco Garza. Francisco, thank you, man, for coming on, sharing your thoughts, giving people some really good ideas and, ways to kind of change their perspective on their own lives. And, for putting that out there, especially about the Marine Reconnaissance Foundation. I think it's something everybody needs to know about. Thanks for coming on the show, brother. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
All right, folks, this is another episode of the Power Man podcast where, we bring on these powerful men with these powerful messages. And the reason we do that is because we are united in you regaining your power so that you can become a better protector, a better provider, a better leader tomorrow than you are today, so that you can become a better husband, a better father, a better man tomorrow than you are today. And the reason that we want that for you is because you have value. It's because you matter. And it's because you're worth it. And at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.